Greetings, Metatropes, and welcome to another episode
Greetings.
of Legitcast, ZineQuest 2025 Creator Podcast. I'm your host and narrator, John. ZineQuest is currently on. We are live with Metatropes Anthologies, but today is all about the Joss and Joss of Hive Mind Studios and beside the less traveled road. Hello, Josses. How's it going?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't. I must do this and that too. Okay, let's put this over here to scroll down your page. Cool. Uh, so let's talk about who you are. Give us like a little bit of intro of who you are, what you do. I see you are like veterans of crowdfunding. You've produced many wondrous games. I checked them like a little bit earlier. So tell us about yourselves.
Up to you, Josh.
Oh, okay, thanks. So my name's Josh. I run Art of Arklin. I'm mainly a illustrator. I've worked on Inspire Isles, Over Isles, Arkelion, Caravan Endures, Bard RPG, Heroes of Tara. There's a couple more. And I crowdfunded my first game just under 2 years ago. It's taken a little while to get done, but yeah, slowly getting into the game design space, I suppose, rather than just drawing them.
Oh, there you are. Excellent. And how about you, other Mystery Joes?
I am Hive Mind Games. Josh here is my partner in crime for this project and a couple of the previous ones. But yeah, I design RPGs and boxed games. My main game is Brother Y, a silly card game of medieval marginalia.
I've heard about it actually. I know that.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, the real thing I love doing is RPG stuff.
Then we are lucky because today it's all gonna be about RPGs. And let's start with your game, Beside the Less Traveled Road. I mean, let's start and end, but let's start by talking that it is a system agnostic supplement, which, to my understanding, you can take to any fantasy setting like D&D, Warhammer, I don't know, this and that, Dragonbane, and incorporate it, right? Is that so?
Yeah, exactly. We kept it nice and flexible there, so that it's not tied to any one system. It definitely comes with mechanical elements. It will give you advice on when to give a boon to a player or a little bonus or some sort of curse. But for the most part, it focuses on the role play elements of it, the inter-party role play between characters, and of course that doesn't need to be tied to any one system.
So we have like both role-play encounters and combat encounters and treasures and like different things to see. This is beautiful, by the way, that I'm seeing right now. So what sorts of camping spots or should we expect?
So I think the flagship one is it's the old Maiden's Shrine. That's the one there that's sort of on the cover art. It's the skeleton leaning at rest against this long weathered statue. The encounter hinges on how the players interact with this very, very calm and serene and beautiful scene.
Yeah, sounds fascinating to include those stories to any fantasy setting that you play. 140 pages, wow. If all stretch goals are hit, but you're playing between 70 and 140 pages. This is considered theoretically a lot for ZineQuest, although the rules have changed over the years, so you're not going to ZineQuest jail, certainly. But what was the decision behind going this big of a zine? And will it be staple bound or soft cover, hard cover?
I think the main thing was all of the talent that Josh got for the stretch goals. That's the thing that's like bumping up the page count the most. Something I've had very little to do with. Josh has got secured some of the best in the industry, to be fair. Like, it's a hell of a list.
Yeah.
Some rather good accolades, I'd say.
Oh,
I mean,
definitely.
I ended up landing on 3 pages per entry, because I wanted a nice evocative description, and I only wanted to cut that down so much on the couple sort of draft ones that I wrote. And yeah, basically I ended up sacrificing the content, or increasing the page count to do what I wanted with it. And then of course the freelancers and the stretch goals double the amount that was initially planned. I think at the minute we've unlocked enough of the stretch goals that it will have to be perfect bound, because the page count is too high.
Yeah.
I understand, I see. So let's get to the stretch goals, because you really have created like an Avengers assembly type of situation with many creatives and many amazing artists. To be honest, I didn't have time to research anyone, but so can you help me take them through each goal and what do they bring to the game?
Yes, certainly. So we've got a nice mix of people in here. We've got some that were, this will be their first published writing, whilst they're still writing their own content. Some of it's yet to be released. Some of them are still finding their feet as individual designers, but they sent great writing samples of their work and thought, we'll give them a go. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got people like Chris McDowell, Jonathan Sims, Chris Bissett, Sasha Sienna, who are seasoned veterans. Each of those 4 are award-winning. Chris Bissett has got just a CV. He's got a list of credits that would fill the hour if we were to start listing them. And then a bunch of folks in the middle. In terms of sort of experience there, like Steph Windross has been writing RPGs for sort of 4 or 5 years now. Won awards for her most recent one, Afterglow. Got a crit award for that. Very, very excited. It was very unexpected to be able to put together a roster like that. To be honest, it was not the plan.
And
I think people really took to it, isn't it? 'Cause it's
sorry, go ahead, please.
I think people really took to it because it's a lot of the writing is very like vibe writing, isn't it? Like it's not too heavy on like mechanics or anything like that. So people just get to like write something interesting that they like. It's very like Josh said, a very evocative sort of writing, which I feel is a bit easier going, but you get a bit more like it's a bit more fun, isn't it? It's the kind of writing everybody wants to do.
Yes, indeed. I have some follow-up questions about how did you contact them? Were they people who you knew prior or just seen their work, especially like those who are right for the first time, which I find very interesting and a very nice idea on your part, and I like how it escalates. But tell me about the process of contacting all those artists and how did you coordinate with them? Like, did you give them like a survey with you don't use these words, or I'm really curious about how this process. So take me from the hand, all the baby steps.
So I started floating the idea to people probably maybe 5 months ago now. It's when I first started discussing it with Josh as well. I had sort of an idea that I wanted to pull in a few people that I knew as freelancers for the stretch goals. I'm lucky enough to frequent the monthly meetups of the UK Tabletop Industry Network, which is an industry indie group. They do a lot of meetups all over the UK. And I've become quite good friends with a few local creators through that, like Sasha Sienna and Jonathan Sims included, and Chris. So I was floating it to some people, and then the main push from taking it from a few friends and really sort of widening the net and a full 20 people. I posted an open call for writing samples on the UK Tin Discord server. I think by now there's a couple hundred creators on that server, and I think it was about 10 people came through that. A couple of the new writers came from there. Lou Fryer as well, who was someone that I was loosely acquainted with within the industry but hadn't really met or worked with before, signed up for that, and they had absolutely fantastic, they're super experienced writer, absolutely fantastic samples. There was a couple of wild cards in there, someone I'd never heard of before, T. Jassoza, Indian creator who moved to the UK relatively recently, but him and like two friends wrote a full long-form TTRPG inspired by Indian fantasy and folklore and design. It's absolutely beautiful. You would not be able to tell it's an indie passion project that they'd made. It's fully professional. It's a couple hundred pages long. And the absolute nutter sent me that sent me a whole RPG for his writing samples. I was just like, okay, you're on the team. You're on the team. It's just absolutely crazy. Really, really unexpected. Really unexpected to go from pulling in a couple of friends to 20, fully fledged, super talented freelancers.
I only seen this once with the One Shot Tavern. That many artists. I don't know if you're aware of this. ZineQuest had done a similar thing, but I think you're doing it even more impressively. So where we at now, because my display shows euros, so you might see a different number. So yeah, don't be afraid or if it's different. It's I'm not sure. Are you using like in pounds? Are you seeing it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've hit our 5th stretch goal. So the last person to be unlocked.
Yeah.
Was
just unlocked Emma Birch, and we're on to Sasha Sienna.
Emma Birch. Okay. This is where you are now. Okay. Yeah. So talking about the next one coming up, Sasha Sienna half winning. So what sort of story will Sasha be writing? Do you give them like freedom to do whatever they want as long as like something in the campsite and something fantasy oriented, or do you have more specifications?
So I sent out a draft format with like word count and stuff of the first location. That was the one with the shrine and the skeleton. If players are respectful towards it, they get some small bonuses. If they're not very respectful to the skeleton, then they can get a curse, or it might get up and attack them. So that kind of set the vibe. I set some loose guidelines on that, on what we were looking for. I named, Dark Souls and Elden Ring as our sort of main points of reference there.
Okay. Yeah.
And not the big epic bits of those games, but the quiet, almost sad and somber moments where you end up talking to a weird little guy by a lake, and it's kind of poignant. So I gave them a bunch of vibes, and I said, okay, send me your pictures. You can hit me up an email, you can send me it in a document, message me in DMs, we can chat it over, however you want to do it. And then from there, it was some very, very minor tweaks just to keep them on vibe. One or two are slightly more humorous. One or two of them are a little bit more, I'd say, like typical fantasy D&D, mainline stuff. So there's a nice little bit of variance in there. But yeah, most of them barely needed any work. Almost everyone understood it pretty much immediately. Just tiny little tweaks.
As we talked before off camera, and I talked with other designers here in the show, there is so many things that you need to learn and do besides game design. If you're the game designer, I mean, all the business stuff. And I wonder how much, what sort of percentage of your time was game design and what was coordinating like 20 people or something.
Putting it together and getting everyone going and getting all their pitches was probably half of my day for about 2 weeks leading up to sort of the campaign going. I was just constantly replying to messages and emails and chasing people who were a little bit late on stuff.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, that's the fun of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't mind it, to be fair.
Let's talk a little bit about the rewards.
It was quite nice. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it was, I suppose. It must have been. Let's talk a little bit about your rewards and add-ons, starting with the foiled bookmark, like foiled as if Magic the Gathering foil that you turned around and it's shiny.
Yes. I think it was my idea, really, wasn't it? Because I sell foil bookmarks through Art of Arclin. There's I do Nordic-inspired ones, and people love them. So I was like, oh, we should do one. It's a cool add-on. And it took us a little while, didn't it, to try and get just the idea of what to put on it, because everything's sort of square and a bookmark's really thin and long. But we got there in the end. I really like what we come up with. It's the first, well, not the first four, but the 4 locations that I have actually drawn for the Kickstarter, and then a nice big old berserk inspired sword. So that's another one of our influences.
Now you have amazing here badges, stickers, wooden keychain, T20. So you have lots of wonderful stuff that people can add to their pledge. And well, I think your experience that you have as a company after creating 8 Kickstarters must play a really big role when it comes to forming your reward tiers and add-ons and all that, right?
I mean, as far as sort of formulating what we need, and what goes into those, having that range is useful for raising the amount. There will always be someone who wants to spend £150 on your campaign because they like the look of it. So you should put in an option that's about, that there is higher amounts so that everyone can spend as much money as they want, basically. If you've only got, digital for say 10 quid and a physical for 20, the maximum anyone can ever spend is 20 quid. So yeah, giving people those increments to spend exactly what they want does really help. I find does really help how much you can raise on a campaign.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, luckily we had Josh's amazing art sitting there ready to go that makes awesome designs for this stuff.
Yeah, the design is stellar and the aesthetics I think it's gonna go really, really well. So we have, both of us have like 8 days to go. What are like your final week goals? Not in terms of how much you want to raise, but like updates to your campaign or something that you might add, or do you have any surprises for your backers this last week?
Sure.
I don't know.
I'm
Do we?
hoping. I'm hoping to get a couple of the locations finished, or at least drafted to a point where we can show them off in an update in the next couple of days, and be able to show people kind of exactly what they're going to look like.
Yeah, that sounds about
That's
right.
probably right. I should probably write one of mine, shouldn't I? Really?
So up to now, I think all the guests that I've invited, I kind of ask them some more challenging questions, not cookie cutter interviewer, because I'm not an interviewer, and after 8 campaigns, I guess some went better than the others. Have you had any campaign that didn't go the way you planned, and what sort of experience did you draw from that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty big disastrous campaign. What was this? Just over 18 months ago, about a year and a half ago. We launched the campaign. It was a Blood and Glory, which is meant to be a Norse vampire setting. We realized about a week into the campaign, or a few days into the campaign, that it was underperforming what we thought it was going to do by a lot. We thought it was maybe going to do 10 or 12k, and after the launch, we were on 1k, something like that. It turns out we hadn't done our research properly, and calling it a source book led to certain expectations in terms of the amount of content that we were actually we were short on. So other places had 12 locations and we had 5, or they had 40 beasts in the bestiary and we only had 15. So we made, in hindsight, probably the wrong decision. Rather than cancelling the campaign and relaunching it properly, on the fly, we decided to up the amount of content. We had the ideas for it anyway, but the main problem is that the product ended up twice, maybe 3 times the size it was originally planned. And I'm still working on that now. 18 months later, I'm still chipping away at the amount of content that needs to be written for it.
Thank you for sharing that story. And out of curiosity, how did you recover after that? Was it like devastating for the company, or it was like, okay, we can survive, we will manage?
Luckily, backers are very, very understanding. I have been painfully honest with them, embarrassingly honest with them at times, where I've just had to hold my hands up and just outright admit mistakes and problems on the campaign. Little bit of public humiliation. It was it was unpleasant, but people have been very understanding. It is, like I say, it's still hanging around, so it's still an amount of my week still goes to writing content for that. Unfortunately, I can't focus it because I have to do the other stuff to make sure my rent's paid. So yeah, luckily the backers have been very patient. I mean, in terms of lessons learned, I'm a lot more thorough with my research before launching a campaign about what people expect from certain categories of product.
Just to my
That's
right.
I don't research history department.
Yeah, I wanted to hear your thoughts, and if you had, through your website and your business, similar turmoils, and how did you recover?
Sort of. So I've only had the one campaign on Kickstarter, which did pretty well, if I'm modest.
It did.
It did. It did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did really well. To be fair, I think we raised about 31k in the end, so it did really well for a first campaign. I was lucky. I had some really good advice from some people in the industry that were like, "It's a big game. Put the like delivery date to 18 months to give yourself time, just in case anything goes wrong." And wouldn't you know it, stuff did go wrong. I had some computer issues. I lost like 6 months of work.
Oh no, this is
so that really knocked us back.
This is
May,
worse.
it's terrible. It was honestly one of the worst points in my life so far.
Seriously,
So,
it's like one of my
yeah.
phobias to lose all of your data, and I store them to clouds and this and that. But yeah, it sucks
Yeah.
when that happens. Even like a file or
I
something.
had,
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
yeah,
to hear
I had
that.
some of it backed up. Some of it not. I draw on an iPad now, so a lot of the like raw drawing was still like there, but none of like the editing or anything like that had been done, which was all on like the PC. It was really annoying, but you know, we're clawing our way back. And then one of my writers got made redundant from their job, and they had to start looking for a new one. And I was like, look, don't worry about the writing, get back on your feet, and then come back to it. Because I think one of the worst mistakes you can make as a creator is trying to like push people to do creative work when they're not feeling creative. You know, not only going to get subpar work, but it's also just unhuman, isn't it? You know, like
I think
I couldn't think of anything worse in that if I was in that situation.
But I think we, I mean, zinequesters and indie in general fall under that category because we wear a lot of hats. And personally, I don't like most of the hats that I wear. I like, you know, the storytelling, the game designing, you know, maybe something like this one, the media, and but certainly not the business, not the legal, not the all those stuff. Not very fond of. We do have a question from the audience, although it's noon the time of this recording. So the question is, based on your experience, what would be your advice to new zinequesters coming to Kickstarter next year?
Good question. No, after you, mate.
I was going to say, start your campaign early. Like, start your page earlier than you ever thought you would need to. Especially if it's your first campaign. You can set the date to launch during ZineQuest month. But, you know, anybody new coming to Kickstarter, I'd say give yourself like a decent amount of lead time to like just get your numbers up, get people talking about it, shouting about it on social media. And other than that, it's just make like just the work that goes into making the page look as professional as possible takes time. So give yourself that time. Doesn't matter if you finish the page 3 months prior to the launch date, but at least you can collect followers. You know, I always say like 6 months in advance. Like get your follower count up as much as possible before you launch.
I was gonna basically say the same thing. Just give yourself plenty of lead time on everything. For a ZineQuest, you might not need 6 months. For a TTRPG campaign outside of that, yeah, give yourself 6 months of the pre-launch page being up and gathering those followers and stuff. The other one is do loads of research. Look at all of the other campaigns that are similar to yours, that have done well, that might fit a similar niche. And borrow elements that they've used. Use their pages as inspiration. If you think they've got a cool layout on how they've laid out their tiers or their stretch goals, you can use that for inspiration with your design. As for the product itself, keep it manageable, because scope bloat has killed many an indie RPG designer.
Sorry, I didn't quite. What did you say? Blokes?
Scope bloat. So the scope of the work getting bloated growing. Okay. Yeah. It's really easy to say this is going to be 30 pages. I'm going to fit all of my rules in 20 pages. And then suddenly you get writing and you realize you have to explain something a bit more than you thought. And suddenly it's 40 pages and then 50 and then 60. And suddenly you end up with hundreds of hours more work than you'd bargained for.
And cost,
and for sometimes, yeah, exactly. And sometimes, you know, if you raise £1,000 on a campaign or €1,000, releasing hundreds of hours of work for that money is not worth it. So keep it small, keep it reasonable, and give yourself plenty of time on your deadlines. If you think it's going to take you 2 months to write it, say it's going to take 4 months. It probably will take closer to 4 months, and it's always better to be early on a deadline than late.
Oh, I think those advices that you both gave are gold. You both mentioned the lead campaigns, and something we actually learned what it is like a few months ago when we began our lead campaign. And what sort of, did you have like some specific milestones when it came to the lead number? So we need like 1,000 leads to do this, or 5, or so, because we're super new to this and I don't know much. What can you tell me about your lead campaigns?
Oh, our lead campaign on this one was a bit chaotic, actually. We broke.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, we broke all of the advice that we've just given. We didn't stick to.
Okay.
We didn't stick to one bit of it about the lead up to launch. What we did do was yell about it across all of the socials that we are on every day for about 3.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. We planned on launching on the 2nd of January for the pre-launch. I don't think we actually put that live until the 9th of January. And then, we just spent the whole time posting twice a day on the socials. There was a little bit of press. We've got a couple of interviews coming up, but we actually broke almost all of our own advice and probably paid for it. It probably did hurt us. Yeah.
It was a bit chaotic. Like because it was a good week where I was like, can we launch it? Can we launch it? We really need to start, like, we need to be doing this. And Josh is like, I know. I'm just gonna do this.
They threw me under the bus. We launched as soon as your art was ready, pal.
I'm not launching you underneath the bus. I'm just like, it was back and forth. I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that.
No, of course not. I'm joking. I'm pulling your leg. No, I mean that's another thing as well. Of course, there was a bunch of dependencies. Josh couldn't start certain parts of his work until parts of mine were done, and then Josh would finish a bit of his work that let me do another bit. It's all of that kind of stuff that will catch you out, which is why you should leave yourself plenty of time, which we didn't do. And it was chaos.
Let's talk
but
about.
We thrive. We thrive in chaos, don't we?
No, you're going perfectly if the circumstances weren't perfect for this launch. Do you have like specific advice about when to launch? For us, I don't want to talk too much about ourselves, but we chose like the first Tuesday after February came, which was like 4th of February. I think you followed maybe something, but the truth is that we weren't ready. We kind of disclosed it with some updates. If we waited for like a few hours, it would have been much better. Like some shipment costs that we messed up would have been fixed. But if we waited like 1 week, we had so much more content already. Some Legitcast episodes on the way, and in retrospect, it would be totally different if we launched 1 week. But with madness and sleep deprivation and chaos a few days before launch, we decided let's do it, and I insisted it's on me. So what advice would you give someone when to launch a Kickstarter?
I always say, don't be afraid to push it back. like anybody starting a campaign, new campaign especially, don't be afraid to push it back. Like when on the lead up to WOD, I think I was supposed to launch in October, and I was like, no, we're not ready. I'm going to push it back to March because I didn't want to hit Christmas. You know, and that's like 6 months different. So a week wouldn't have really hurt, like, you know, especially if you had more content, if the page was better, if you had more followers. Like, just don't be afraid to push it back. People will be understanding because they've only followed the page. Like, it's at the end of the day, what's a week to them? Like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you only get one. So yeah, you only get one chance to launch, and I found the launch to be like really, really critical for a campaign. The amount backed spikes for the first 2 days, and the higher it gets, the higher it will be when it levels out. So yeah, if you're worried about how the launch is going to go or the state of the page, you need a little bit more time, push it back, do your one launch properly, and get it as correct as you can.
Yeah, I mean, again, don't want to talk too much about my experience, but I wish I have heard your the advice just given right now. But before, I don't know why I insisted. I thought like since for months now we've been advertising on launch of February 4th, we shouldn't change it. And I had like in my mind that Foundry VTT, like the actual company, had like this big reveal to do on the 5th. And the day later, I heard that they also postponed. So, like, if big companies postpone, why didn't we? So, yeah, we kind of, well, we included only like US prices, and we lost all the Greek and European potential backers during launch. So, yeah, it was surely a learning experience. So, I don't want to take too much of your time. What, since you're giving, treasures of advices, what final advice would you okay, I have a crazy question. What advice would you give to yourself if you could time travel to the beginning of your endeavor, your career in this industry, that will totally change your entire total new timeline create this way?
So when I started as an artist 12 years ago, I would tell myself, no, Josh, you're not going to become a comic book artist. Stop trying. It's not happening. Go to games.
Okay, now I get it. Okay.
For me, it would definitely be slow down, launch when you're ready, fewer better run campaigns is better.
Fewer better run campaigns. That's good. That's good. So, Josh and Josh, thank you so much for joining me. Everyone who is watching it live or later in YouTube, go and support Beside the Less Traveled Road. Still 8 days to go. Actually, coincidentally, we're ending up, the same time, our two campaigns, so it's gonna be fun. And support Beside the Less Traveled Road, support Metahumans Anthology, support zines in general. We're in ZineQuest 2025. And do you have any final message to your fans before we sign us off?
Holy shit, I have fans?
130 of them at least, as I see.
Welcome. I didn't know you existed until now. Thanks for the support.
Yeah. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
Josh, do you have another special message?
Other than thank you, no, I think Josh has summed it up perfectly for this Josh at least.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. This has been much fun, lots of laughs, I think lots of good moments, good content. So thank you for that. Good luck with the rest of your campaign. And I have been your host and narrator. Thank you for joining us, and stay legit and stay meta.